episode 39 of season 5 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I am hosting solo tonight. I'm Paul LePage, but I am joined by Alex producing.
Hey.
Danny's on the socials.
Good Sunday evening.
And we are straight into a preview show. Crystal Palace versus Wolves. It will be Tuesday this week, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock for us. And very timely. I think pretty much everyone wants to be the scene or being totally overcome with all the footage that followed from yesterday's victory for Palace against Man City in the FA Cup. And we're delighted to welcome, because he's such a nice guy, it's Matt Sampson from the Crystal Palace Supporters Club in DC. Matt.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
What does it feel like to be the winner of a major trophy?
It's pretty unreal. It was what a day we had. There were about 75 of us at Ireland's Four Courts, which is our home bar in Arlington, Virginia, and we decked it out. We rocked the place. We were there for hours afterwards. It was just incredible.
So talk us through it. What was your emotions leading up to the game as a fan, during the game, and when that final whistle blew?
Yeah, I had a pretty good feeling going into the match, kind of knowing that in our 2 games with City this season, we had gone toe-to-toe and matched them pretty well in 3 out of the 4 halves. Now, the fourth half we don't really talk about, but that was absolutely brutal. But, we came into the match. Palace had been in, kind of complete control in its run up to Wembley with a really thorough 2-0 win over Tottenham. So, kind of just came into it feeling really good. And then, from there during the match, the script kind of played out in, the exact way. I think that if you had asked any Palace fan prior to the match, how do y'all win it? They would have told you, we need to get that first goal. We need to rely on our central defense and our goalkeeper, both of whom have been just amazing all year. We've got to draw energy and emotion from what's going to be an incredible, crowd at Wembley. And you've got to get a little lucky. And we certainly did with the potential handball or on Dean Henderson, which could have seen him get kicked out of the game. So I think it all ran through, kind of just like we would have thought it needed to in order to win. And, but it's still City. They've still got 82% or something possession throughout the match. And, you score that goal in the 16th minute, and then you think 8 minutes have gone by and you look at the clock and it's like 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 minutes. So it was a grind, but it was all worth it in the end.
So being an overseas fan, but not being that traditional support over top 6, top 7 team, do you have a finer appreciation of what an FA Cup win means to that older traditional generation of Palace fan?
I think I do a little bit, and probably from my experience there, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to go over for the semifinal match, and ended up, funnily enough, a gentleman, UK based guy, was over here and at the bar that we always hang at a few weeks before, and he was like, "Oh, you're coming over, you're going to hang out with me and everything." And so I hung with Luke, who's probably in his mid-ish 20s, but also his dad, who is a longtime Palace season ticket holder, and talking to them, and on some of my other trips going over there and talking to folks at pre-match bars and everything. I think I certainly got a sense of what it means. I know that as a Palace fan, someone who started supporting the club back in 2015, we went on an FA Cup run and made it to the final in 16. And I kind of look at myself as a supporter back then and now, and can see, realize I didn't kind of have a clue as to what it meant back in 2016 and what the tournament meant and what it would bring to Palace. And I think I have a better understanding now, but certainly nothing like what, folks who have been, sitting in the Homesdale end since, the 60s can take out of it.
So talk us through going to a semifinal. My curiosity is obviously in the fact that, like, do you go to that knowing that if they win, I might just have to come right back? And what went into the decision-making process there about once you realize, like, we're going to Wembley, am I just doing this all over again?
Yeah, it kind of broke my heart a little bit to not be able to go back. I had some life stuff here that was kind of already on the calendar, and a little bit of a financial thing. The quick turnaround with the matches there means you're not getting advanced plane tickets or anything like that. But I was also super happy that the folks here in the DC crew have been such a big part of my Palace fan experience, and it made it so full and so rich. So if I wasn't going to be at Wembley, which yesterday, which would have been amazing, the next best thing was being in there with that many folks, and all the hugs and celebrating afterwards. It was great.
So back to reflecting just on the season, Matt, and it wasn't the best of starts, and at one point Oliver Glasner seemed on as shaky a ground as Gary O'Neill. Mm-hmm. Was there a pivotal game, run, situation that helped turn it around?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking back and kind of looking back at notes that I took from our first chat this season. I think we were combined going into that. We were combined 18 matches in and had a total of like 8 points between us. And I think there were probably some nerves on both sides back then that we would either we wouldn't be playing each other next season, or if we were, we would be discussing which one of us had a better shot at getting promoted back out of the championship. So I was as a kind of a tangential Wolves fan from afar, I was thrilled to just kind of see you guys kick on here and move up the table. But going back to Palace, after the match with Wolves earlier this year, the 2-2 draw, I think we had our worst match of the season, just an absolutely dreadful home loss to Fulham. And then after that, we kind of seemed to find our footing, tread water, and a nice road draw against going to Villa. We scored a late goal to salvage a point at home against Newcastle to kind of close out November. And December had some good performances in it, but really, like, it was the festive fixtures, after the Boxing Day draw with Bournemouth, we really kind of kicked on and went about a month and a half without losing a match. And there were some wins against the relegated teams in there, but there's some other really good performances. A thorough win against Fulham, just an absolute demolition of Aston Villa at one point. So yeah, it was just sort of a slow build. Kind of once we got through that. Once we got into that festive fixture, it was, all of a sudden you kind of blinked and like, oh God, it's been 45 days without a loss. And not all great performances in there, but they stacked enough good ones to kind of really, push on and get that point total up and get out of danger.
Yeah, a month and a half without a loss, something we also got to experience this year. It's pretty
I recommend it for everyone. It's really awesome.
Another thing that we are familiar with is when a club of our size has success, it usually means that people come calling. It's very likely that Matheus Cunha will leave after an impressive season. So I wonder, with Palace winning a cup, I mean, they already lost Elise, which makes it very impressive this season that they had. Mm-hmm. What's the talk around Eze, Gay? Like, is the FA Cup win any, make it any more likely or less likely that they would depart this coming summer? Because there's a lot of big clubs looking to retool.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think Gay is we will be very sad to see him go, but next year is the last year of his contract. He hasn't signed anything, anything additional or any extension. And I don't suppose that Europa League is going to be enticing enough for him to stay. He's 24 years old. He's our captain. He starts for England. He was arguably their best player in the Euros last summer. And, he's potentially on track to captain England at some point. He wants Champions League football. It's hard to deny him that. And I think he wants a chance to be playing in the Champions League or for it every year. And I just don't quite think Palace can offer that. They'll have to take less for him than they were asking for last summer due to, his contract running out. But, I think you can say, I certainly will say that, whatever transfer fee that we lost last summer was well spent, having him be the backbone of a defense that won the FA Cup. As for Eze, he's a little older, which means, that I think there'll be some offers that come in, but maybe not quite as, splashy as a Gahey offer or anything like that. There certainly will be suitors, but I think maybe I'm hopeful that, Palace, with some increased wages and the promise of continuing to be our star man for, some nights in Europe might be able to keep him. And I think, the biggest key to keep is manager Oliver Glasner. I hope that they have already just deployed a dump truck full of money to his house, and maybe offered him he's a big skier, a chalet in the Alps or something like that, for a few weeks every winter. But he is as key as I think any player right now.
So on to the event after the Lord Mayor's show and Tuesday's game. So how do you think you're going to line up? Have you got anyone on the injury report today that did not participate in training because of hangover?
Possible. I mean, I almost didn't make it to this because of hangover. So, but Gahey had to leave the FA Cup final. It took a shot right off the face. He played a few minutes after that incident, but had to come off more because his eye was swollen shut. The BBC actually reported today that he missed the late night party. So he's probably in from a non-hangover state. He's probably in the best shape of anyone, but he had to have tests. Thankfully, they came back negative for an eye socket fracture, but certainly some heavy bruising around there. So I can't imagine that he would play. And similar is midfielder Adam Wharton, who also Kevin De Bruyne got him with a shot right off the side of the head. And he posted on Instagram last night from the hospital, just checking in and going through concussion protocol. So I can't see any reason why the Eagles would push or risk anything with those two guys. Place in the league is secure. We are locked into 12th no matter what. So I can't imagine you would see either of those guys on the pitch tomorrow.
Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on. Many congratulations. Thanks always for making the time and coming on to help with these previews. And this is why we do it for, and it's good to see your passion and what it means to your fandom from our side. So
well, thanks. I just wanted to say you guys are great. I always appreciate you having me on and giving me this little forum here. And I'm thrilled that we're talking next year about matchups in the Premier League. So my best to all of you. Have a great summer and a great transfer window.
We'll see you next season. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, cheers, Matt. Guys. See you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, hopefully one day, boys, we're going to be doing that type of podcast appearance.
Oh my God.
Who knows? I don't know. It's just there's a whole ways you can just slice and dice all of that. And I tweeted yesterday, it's like you can't look at it like it's tin pot or anything, or the luster of the FA Cup has worn off in any way. It's so significant still, and just that the fan footage at the final whistle and like that generation in the stands of all the supporters just being in tears and just embracing each other. That's what it's all about. So that's why we do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to lose track of when, it's these big teams winning it every year. And especially when you have, scenarios where City is playing a relatively smaller club and you're thinking, well, they ought to win it. And then they end up winning it. And you're just like, okay, well, whatever. Like, I'm sure players love winning things, but, how much does it mean in the grand scheme of things if they're still in the Champions League final or something, But, when you see those scenes, it's just, I don't know. I wish that we didn't bring everything back to the ownership of our club, but it's like, I don't know. How can you write those words? And I know we're going to be talking about them at the end of the season wrap up. Jeff Shee saying, if you only want to win trophies, then this isn't the club for you. I mean, like, I don't know. This season, if anything, I think is renewed for most people the idea that, like, would you be relegated but win the FA Cup? And it's like 100%. Like, yeah, there's all the mathematical reasons why financially it'd be better to stay in the league and whatever. But I mean, come on, you know, to quote a movie, how can you not be romantic about baseball?
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, there's also a certain satisfaction level, at least for me, like being growing up in the United States, being an American sports fan. Like, we always talk about like single elimination tournaments, and maybe it doesn't always lead to the absolute best team winning said tournament, right? Like the NFL playoffs, unlike maybe the NBA where you play 7-game series. You can have like a team that's probably like a slightly undeserved champion, but it's so gratifying. Like that's like the beauty of the sport that we of sports that we grew up loving here in the States. So if anything, it's like more akin to what we're used to. And to cheapen it, it's like it's just really silly, because if it were like insignificant or easy to do, then the best teams like City and Liverpool and all the biggest clubs in the country wouldn't always be winning it, So if they didn't care to win it, then they wouldn't always be winning it. And if it was easy to do as a club the size of Palace, then it would happen more frequently. So I agree. It's a great accomplishment. Happy for Matt, all around good guy we love to party with, and in Annapolis this past summer. Should have known we were seeing greatness there, other than just Rodrigo Gomez running around that pitch in Annapolis.
So, onto the game. Here's a tweet for you that I saved. It's from Glyn Thomas, and he says lowest Wolves can finish currently is 17th, which the whole trophy winning versus financial element is. That would be a £12.5 million prize. If we beat Palace on Tuesday, it means the lowest we can finish is 14th, which is a £21.8 million prize. So it means Tuesday's game is a 9.3 million game for us. So that puts it puts a spin on it, but to me, it's like, will the players even think of that? Will Jeff Shee be in his ivory tower rubbing his hands together thinking, I've got £9 million at jeopardy here? And are the players even bothered about that? Does it make a difference? Are they going to show up and just be professional and go out there, or is that going to impact at all?
I think I take the view that players probably mostly don't care about the sort of monetary value of the places, even the ones who are staying, knowing it'll probably directly benefit them to play with better players. But on the other hand, I do think that players care about the table, and like just as a point of personal pride, you can debate whether they feel safe and so now they're all on the beach or whatever, but there's a big difference finishing 17th versus finishing 14th. And I think this group of players has been through a lot this season, and I think they have been vindicated in their belief early on that this was a group that should have been nowhere near the bottom of the table, that just based on individual skill alone, they deserve to be closer to 14th. And so this is their chance to prove it. And they happen to have like a pretty good chance on Tuesday, even though Selhurst hasn't historically been a great place for us to go. Obviously, as we talked about with Matt, the players just, went through the ringer, both during the match, during the FA Cup final, and then after it. So, there's a great chance for them to finish at least 14th, and that'll show that they were right. So I think they'll care. I think that there's always a drop off towards the end of the season when there's, quote unquote, nothing to play for. But the money will mean something to Vitor, because that prize money is something that he could directly appeal to, get put into the transfer fund, since he sort of directly won it.
So what do we know about the game on Tuesday? It's pretty quiet. I'm assuming there's no press conference till tomorrow, but don't know on that one.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to be known. I mean, I haven't poured through the, all the training photos and videos to see if there's anyone suspiciously missing. But I mean, it just seems like we're sort of back to where we were, and the same questions probably remain in terms of the ones who we know who have like sort of lingering, fitness issues. Bellegarde has been spared some minutes, and Larson came on late in the last game. So I think we'd still have the same questions going into the press conference beforehand. It would be very similar, where are these players good enough to start? And I'm sure he will not give a direct answer. I think everyone who watched our previous game will really hope that Larson is fit to start.
Alex, do you think the result is down to whether Jurgen starts?
I think that's a big part of it, and I think another big part of it is like the version of Palace that shows up. I mean, we're joking about that a lot, but I also feel like, everybody's playing for places. There's not a lot at stake. Like their peak moment of the season has been achieved, and it'd be crazy to not have some type of come down. I think from that moment. So I think that is certainly going to play into it. I'm not saying they're going to show up and be just hungover and lethargic, but I do think that they'll be a little bit less hungry. But I think the Larson point is a good one. I mean, I think we've noticed through his absence, how important he is to this attack. We've noticed how key he could be even without Matheus Cunha and Cunha's absence. You could say what you want about the type of teams that we were playing during Cunha's absence and the winning run, but Larson was in some of his best form, and our results were as good as they can be. Let's say we do get a good version of Crystal Palace, who were just able to keep a pretty good defensive record against one of the best strikers in the world, the other Norwegian striker in the Premier League, and just a very potent City onslaught through times of that game, and their goalkeeper played into that too. But I don't think without him, Wolves have enough thrust to even be confident in scoring a goal on the road against a team like Crystal Palace. And the goals have dried up a little bit. So, I mean, to me, that 9 million, it is a lot at stake. That could be a backup striker for next season. That could be a good rotational midfielder. It could be a number of different things. The Wolves have actually found fairly decent players, true squad players, for around the 10 to 12 million pound to 15 million pound range, and nine's not that far off from that. So I want that in the kitty.
Okay, prediction time.
No.
I will start with Danny.
God, this is one I really dread, because I think that all the things point to a Wolves win. I think we've been good enough recently, and I think Palace is truly going to be depleted, at least mentally, if not physically, and in terms of personnel. I follow FPL pretty closely, and the warning this week is do not count on any of your Palace players to start. If you have the likes of Eze or Mateta or Daniel Munoz or whatever, it's just you think oh, well, it's their last home game, but I can promise you any season ticket holder for Palace is not going to care if Glasner puts out a bunch of kids because they've all been partying. They're not going to care at all. That match, that trophy is the pinnacle of their season. These last two games are just bookkeeping, and I'm sure that they will like to make a good account of themselves and not be embarrassed. But apart from that, I really don't think that anyone in the stands or on the players' bench is going to particularly care about that game after what happened this weekend. So it's a lot of waffle, but basically it feels like it should tee up a Wolves win, and somehow I struggle to predict that at Selhurst. So I'm going to be a downer and say we're going to draw 1-1.
Alex?
Yeah, as Danny was talking, I was convincing myself that I would go with a 1-1, but at this point in the season, I'm just trying to make the gap in the table of predictions a little bit less by the time the season ends. So I think I'll say Wolves have to score, right? Especially if Palace aren't really at it. I'll say 2-1 Wolves.
I was going down the track of Danny's draw, certainly away from home, that struggling venue and all of that. But I've got to lean on the win. So if Alex is going 2-1, I've got to go for a 2-0 away win to the Wolves.
No Stupid Questions is brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Whether you're toasting some Vino de Vitor or winding down after a day of work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of wine country with each sip. Now at esfuerzowines.com, you can use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, at checkout to receive a 30% discount off your order. And don't forget to try the special edition 1-pack wines to show your passion and support for Wolves with each glass. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their product responsibly and in moderation.
Time for No Stupid Questions, brought to you by our friends at Esfuerzo Wines. Go to esfuerzowines.com, use the promo code VITOR, and get a 30% discount off your order. It's our favorite part of the show where you, the listener, can ask us anything. You, the viewer, also can ask us anything if you're viewing on the live stream on our YouTube at Whole Lot of Wolves, on Facebook, or if you want to tweet your questions in ahead of time at WLW Pod is the show's handle. Hello at wholelotofwolves.com is the show's email address. You can reach us any number of ways. And if you are watching on the stream right now, you could also just put your question in the chat, and we can always pop it up and get to it. So let's get to a question from Stu from the Wolves Fancast, who first asked on X, in the unlikely event that we ever got to a cup final, what excuse would you use to your employers to get to go to it in person, Paul?
So just based on what Matt said and experience there, going to the semi-final, me not going to our last semi-final, I think if we ever got either the FA Cup, League Cup, Conference League, Europa, if that ever happened, I'm going, regardless. So that confirmed it. And luckily for me, I think just about, and this is going to sound very morbid, but I could pull the death in the family card.
Okay.
Like, my employers don't know that both sets of grandparents died a long, long time ago, but I could pull that card and say my dear granddad, who I was so close to at a lofty age of 90-something, sadly passed, and I want to go and pay my respects. So I could go that route.
Yeah, you've got a lot of excuses to go back to England. You wouldn't even have to lie about where you are or anything like that.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Danny, how are you wiggling out of work if you need to?
Well, to that point, to Paul's last point, my concern I think would be more, for those of us with humble financial means, how could I scam my work into sending to London on their dime? And I think for that, I'd probably have to get a new job first, because I don't see international travel being part of my my current setup. But that would have to be a part of it. But I don't know. I think, thinking actually practically about this question, which I know is, meant to be sort of fun. I think, like, assuming that it was not really in the cards for me to make the trip over, I think we'd have to, without question, have to be, gathering the Baltimore Wolves crew. But even more so than that, I think it would be worth, investigating like a Eastern Seaboard meetup if possible. Like, if we could do a bigger thing like at McHale's or something for the people who couldn't make it over, I think that would be easily worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think like the meetups here, I think would be great for those who can't go. Like I would definitely try to go. But I do think stateside there would still be something pretty epic. I agree with you, Danny. I think so. I have an unnamed friend who is pulling a pretty interesting trick. He is relocating back to the UK, but he has taken all of his PTO at once in the coming months this summer, but moving home, right? So like he has not told anybody at work that he's moving. He has just simply taken all of his time off, and then when he's there, plans to tell them that he's not coming back. And it's kind of like an ask for forgiveness rather than permission type thing. Like, I'm going no matter what, whatever their reaction is like what their reaction is going to be. I kind of like that approach. Like, I think I just like, if I could work this out, I book the flight and maybe like the day of, I'm like, guys, sorry, I'm not going to be around next week. If you want me to put in days off, I can, whatever it might be. Can I work remotely? Like, you just gotta operate with the mindset. If you can pull it off, I'm going, and then whatever else happens. Now, I kind of find like a sub question. Like, I know Stu's question was about the final, and we talked about this with Matt too. Like, because Wolves were very close last season to a semifinal. Would you find it worth it to go? Because obviously the variable there is you could, if you win, you're like, shit, now I'm probably not able to go to the final, or I have to pull this all off again and like triple my cost. And if you lose, then, you know, at least you got to be there for the semi. But like, on the scale of like 1 to 10, how must go is a semi for you guys?
I think for me, it's like probably a 6. I'm all in on the final. I'd hate to go to the semi, and for what some of the reasons Matt said, if that stopped me from going for the final, I'd rather be all in on the final, even if we lost.
Yeah. I think I agree, though. I think I would be so pessimistic about making the final that I'd be like, this is my one chance. But I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd worry about a repeat of, you know, some generational trauma when it comes to semifinals. You know, it'd be one thing to go to a final and witness a loss against a team like City or Liverpool or something. It'd be another thing if you were playing a team, you know, a la Watford in that season, you know, some team that was in the top half and you felt like you had a pretty decent chance of going through. And if we blew a lead again, I think I might never recover. Whereas like, you know, you could always feel okay about a loss to a really good team in the final, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. And you get to go to Wem. I mean, I don't know. I think it would be a great experience either way. All right, fine. Stu's question begets a number of questions from me. One more sub question. Does all this apply for a Carabao Cup final?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the whole thing for me is like that. The 1980 World Cup, League Cup win is still looked on so fondly, and that was like 45 years ago now. And if it had that significance then, it just carries through to me. So I'm still a major trophy would have to be at the final, definitely.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. I mean, you know, especially not to, again, we're going to turn this dark every time I think about something to do with the ownership, but like, you know, the fact that both of them get you some form of European competition, and with my current pessimism around the investment strategy, I just think like there would be even more on the line for this, because it's like, this is a route into Europe, which, you know, like you said, Alex, single elimination, you can fluke your way into a final potentially. And so, you know, Jeff Shee doesn't necessarily have to do anything for that. And so it's like, it just adds to the stakes and what it would mean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like found money, or like found European football. Like, I don't know. I didn't do anything for this. All right. Let's get to Drew's question at Drew Freakin on X, frequent guest on the show, one of our faves, who asks, if a Wolves opponent trotted out a front line of Iwobi, Welbeck, and Chris Wood, would you bother watching the match? Give me your most lethal combo of guys who always play great against Wolves. I mean, that's a pretty lethal 3 right there. Paul, who are you putting in your 3? Are you making any changes?
Well, that 3 there, like right at this moment in time, is bang on. I don't think there's ever been a trio who've caused us that much damage of those players right here, right now. The one player I would include here again, which is timely for Tuesday night, is Wilfried Zaha, who seemed to be always a massive thorn in our side for some reason. So I could think on this one, and there'll be players that come to mind as we chew it over, but he jumps out a mile.
Yeah, it's like it was like Charity FC, but for one guy, where it's like, I remember he'd go through dry spells. He was always like helpful to Palace's attack, but he'd go through periods where he wasn't really, getting goals or assists. And then it just felt like as soon as he'd play us, we would, I don't know, it wasn't even him. We were like, just conspire to have our worst possible game against him and let him just like walk into the box or something.
I can forgive, obviously, the Kevin De Bruynes of the world, but you look at Iwobi, Welbeck, and Chris Wood. They should never give you those types of headaches versus like a mega star that was De Bruyne. Yet here we are talking about them like they're Ballon d'Or contenders.
For what it's worth, I feel less anxiety about the Chris Wood and Welbeck this season since we've gotten Agbadou. I think, big center forward is not something I'm as concerned about. Iwobi just defies any explanation, and he's done it on at least 2 different teams against us. And it's just like suddenly we just decide to give him space and he'll cut in and just shoot it from the corner of the box. And that seems to be a weird weakness of ours. And it's just like, I don't understand how this guy is so productive against us.
Yeah. De Bruyne was a good shout as an alteration. It's not as fun. I agree, Paul, but just because he is really good. I'm trying to pull up the most goals versus Wolves all time in the Premier League era, which, I mean, is this right? The top of the list is Erling Haaland, which okay, fine. I mean, he does score a lot of goals. 1.6 goals per match against Wolves in the Premier League era.
Yeah.
He's had some huge games. Well, yeah, I sorted it by now goals per match. So Noni Madueke is obviously up there, but he doesn't feel like someone who's going to come back and haunt us. Although that one really stung. Like as we're reflecting on the season later on when we do like our season wrap up, there was so much optimism at that point in the year. And then for him to go out on social media and say what he said about Wolverhampton and then have that performance. Oh God.
We let him have that performance. That was so depressing. And it stings even more because he's had kind of a crap season, except for the 2 games against us.
Yeah. 100%.
I just thought of another one from recent times, although obviously not as much in very recent times, but that's Danny Ings, who when he was on Southampton, it was just automatic. And then even that win away at Villa, the one that comes off of Matt Targett's butt or whatever, he scores in that one. And he was terrible that season. He was awful. And oh my God, I just could not believe that he scored in that game.
Yeah. He's on that list. He's got 5 all time against them, which is actually a lot. The only ones to score, he has 4. I'm sorry, not 5. But that list is populated with a lot of people who Drew mentioned. Chris Wood is tied with Erling Haaland for 8 in terms of goal volume, not goals per minute. Another guy we haven't mentioned, West Ham. I don't know if anyone pops to mind otherwise for you guys, other than who you mentioned, but Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen. He's got a lot of goals against Wolves. Iwobi's got 6. So does De Bruyne.
Insanity. Literally turning Iwobi into Kevin De Bruyne.
I know. Insane. Richarlison has 6. Mo Salah. Okay. Even though Salah also feels like he doesn't have an impact when Aït-Nouri plays. Welbeck has 6. So all the guys he named are really the guys who all have at least more than 5 goals.
Didn't Richarlison score against us at the win at Molineux just a couple months ago? And he's barely done anything this season.
Garbage time goal, and somehow he just scored. I think it was a headed goal. So those are the guys who typically.
I think it was only one season, but going back to Nuno, and I can't remember his name, Huddersfield Town, Australian, bald head. Aaron, was it Aaron Moy?
Oh, yeah.
And it might have probably been only those 2 games, but it just seemed like he was a world beater and he played the Wolves.
It's such a funny thing. You know what I'm kind of realizing as you go through this is it time to dispel like the former Wolves players scoring against Wolves thing? It does feel like there's been like more opportunities for that recently, especially because guys like Raul are scoring in the Prem. We got to play against Adama. We're always like, oh, of course he's going to score against Wolves, but like, has that one that really stings happened? Like
this is one of my hobby horses, but I've stopped posting about it because it just gets, negative interactions. But it's just, like as soon as, like Jota will be injured and then 2 weeks before we play them, they'll say, oh, he's back in training. And instantly you can write it. There will be all these posts about, oh, he's scoring a brace against us or whatever. I think he scored once against us since he left. It's just like, it doesn't happen that often. Everybody was terrified of Raul or of Adama when we played Fulham at the end of Gary O'Neill's season. And it was just like, I don't know, he's going to do exactly what Adama does. If you're worried about him dribbling from the halfway line and shooting in the top corner, he's done that like exactly once. And he did it for Wolves. Like I don't know, he could do it, but he probably won't.
Yeah, it feels like a way. It's like a weird, like preemptive coping mechanism where we're like trying to like anticipate our own
100%.
pain to then make that pain less if it were in fact to happen. Because you're like, well, see, I told you, but it's like we don't really have a historical, reason to believe that right now for Wolves in the modern era, at least. I don't know if there was a guy, Paul. Like, is there a goal that like in Wolves history, like we're a former Wanderer that like absolutely kills you? Is that like birthed this like pessimism about this, or it's just is what it is?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think if there's if there was someone of that ilk. It'll probably come back to me as soon as we end this, and I have to share it by the means. But it doesn't seem like we've had that player that we've sort of like Robbie Keane scored against us, but that was like he kind of expected, just because they were on Tottenham at the time when we went up in that era. They were on such a different level that we were always the underdog, and if he played, you could probably guarantee someone was scoring. So it seems he was a forward, it'd probably be him. But I can't think of that perennial nemesis. But I'll chew on it. Maybe there's someone kicking around from like those ghastly years in the Championship that I've pushed to the back of my mind, but I'll be reminded of at some bizarre moment.
This one doesn't sting, but it's actually, I think I just thought of a modern one. I could be completely making this up, and it's such a bullshit one. But didn't Nathan Collins score against us this year?
Yes.
Oh my god!
But
how dumb is that?
I will say that one feels evened out by that one, the game just after Christmas, where he basically gifted us like 3 goals. It's going to take a few more goals from him to make me start worrying about his net contribution to us.
Yeah, I would say so. Certainly. He's still like he's on the plus minus. He's still negative in the goals responsible for versus goals directly responsible for that were allowed against Wolves. So
yeah, I just want to go back to a previous segment of this question. Paul mentioned Aaron Moy for Huddersfield scoring against us. He scored 2 goals in the game in November 2018, first season back up. Obviously got promoted with Huddersfield. Huddersfield won only 3 games that season. They won 1-0 against Fulham, and they won 2-0 against Wolves and 1-0 against Wolves. Those were their 3 wins, and they scored a total of 22 goals. So his goals against Wolves in that one game were a little less than 10% of their total goals for the entire 38-game season.
Man, brutal. That's great. I think that'll do us for No Stupid Questions. Good Aaron Moy facts. Great stuff from everyone chiming in for your question. Thanks to all those who participated, and thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines again. head to esfuerzawines.com, promo code Vitor, Vitor at checkout for a discount off your order.
That brings this week's preview show to an end. We are going to be back for an episode to review that Palace game on that evening. So it will be Tuesday. We will be live here on YouTube, and you can also pick up the podcast not long after. So thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials, you, the listener or the streamer, because without you, a whole lot of Wolves wouldn't be a thing. Please do what you can do in terms of giving us a review on your podcast listening platform of choice, or if you've yet to go over to YouTube, please do that. Subscribe to our channel, like our content. That does wonders in terms of increasing our exposure. So when we're looking longingly towards a cup final appearance and maybe even a win, you can just say to yourself, up the mighty Wolves.